To give us more updates on this story, we're joined now by Yasser Hakim live in Cairo and Lorna Shadik live in Moscow. Lorna, the bodies have arrived in St. Petersburg. What's the latest?
That's right, those bodies started to be brought back to St. Petersburg in the early hours of this Monday morning here in Russia. And as we know, around 144 bodies were repatriated. That's not quite as many as the original 162 that the Egyptian authorities were talking about. But they have now been taken from the airport at St. Petersburg, where, of course, the families of those on board have been gathering over the last couple of days or so, to central St. Petersburg, where they will be identified. And they will be identified using the DNA samples that have been given by around 200 or so relatives who've been gathering at the airport. But we don't yet know how many more bodies there still are to be brought back. We do know, however, that a second plane will be arriving in St. Petersburg later this Monday night or in the early hours of Tuesday with more bodies. We can perhaps assume the rest of the remains of those who crashed in the Sinai on Saturday.
And Yasser, what's the latest from the search and investigation efforts? I mean, we have heard there are only 163 bodies have been found. Is this still the case?
Well, we understand that the number has increased to around 176. But of course, in such situations, as you know, it's usually hard to get bodies out. Unfortunately, many of these bodies are not in one piece and could be scattered in the area around the crash site. So it is taking time to bring back the remains of the victims. Concerning the rescue the search operations and the investigation, today experts from France and Germany have arrived to Egypt to also take part in the investigation. They do work as part of the manufacturing company of Airbus. Airbus is the plane that has the manufacturer of the plane that has crashed in Sinai. And they are going to also take part in the investigation and the search operations. The government has also banned anyone from coming near to the perimeter of the crash site, except the investigators and the search teams, as well as experts and pilots and so forth have been banned, or government officials have been banned from speaking to the media concerning the crash. The government is claiming that there has been a lot of misinformation the last couple of days, rumors coming up, spreading about the crash, and also analysis that the government says is not true because it's not based on facts. And it has said that it will only give any statements or analysis once the investigation information comes out of the investigation, not any hearsay as it said. So at this point, the investigation has started. The black box, the two black box recorders are now being extracted. The information and the data out of these black boxes started yesterday. The process of extraction of information and data from the black box recorders, the two ones, but as we understand, it will take time.
Lorna, Russian officials have been quoted saying that initial investigations indicate that the plane may have disintegrated mid-air. What more authorities they're saying?
That's right. Well, that was the Viktor Sorochenko, who's the head of Russia's Interstate Aviation Committee. He said on Sunday night that the fuselage disintegrated in mid-air. But we're just now getting lines in from a press conference being held by the airline itself, Kogalim Avia, and they say that no system shutdown could lead to the plane disintegrating in mid-air. And as far as they're concerned, the only way that the plane could have been destroyed in the middle of the air is by some external impact. So it's clear that as far as they're concerned, there was nothing wrong with the plane when it took off. They have been emphasizing that it passed all its safety checks and that the pilot had over 12,000 hours of flying experience. So they seem to be stressing that there was no internal reason within the plane that could have caused it to blow up. So Russian officials, though, themselves keeping pretty tight-lipped still about any official cause of this accident or of this crash. They're merely saying we need to wait still for the black box flight recorders to be analysed fully, and for that joint Russian and Egyptian investigation into what exactly happened to complete its work. It's just too early at this stage to say whether it was a pilot or a crew error, whether there was some kind of external factor, or whether there was a technical problem on board the plane. But experts do say that that theory that the plane broke up in midair does narrow down slightly the possibilities in terms of what might have happened to it. They of course say they can't rule out the possibility of terrorism, but there is also the possibility that, for example, the fuel tanks on the plane exploded, or that there was some failure of maintenance checkups before the plane left the ground. Kogilim Avia clearly very much denying that that was the case, but the Russian authorities not drawing any firm conclusions at this stage.
Right. So, yes, how is this tragedy being viewed there in Egypt, considering that the country's tourism industry is only beginning to recover from the slump that followed the period of political unrest?
Well, if you first talk about the reaction in Egypt, it's been a sad few days here in Egypt. I've done a story showing the people laying wreaths of flowers in front of the Russian embassy, Egyptians going to the Russian embassy to send their condolences to the Russians, from all citizens, not just public figures, putting flowers in front of the Russian embassy. There's sadness even in the newspapers in the country here are showing how the country has been affected, the Egyptians have been affected by the Russian tragedy. Concerning tourism, well, Russian tourism is a major backbone for Egypt's overall tourism. In the last 3 years, since the 2011 uprising, if you can call it the demography of the tourists in Egypt has changed completely. The Russians are now around 60% of total tourists coming to Egypt are from Russia. So any effect would have a hard hit on the Russian industry. But so far, the news we have is that there are minimum cancellations of Russians coming to Egypt. The flights are ongoing as normal. Russians have not canceled much. We understand only individual cancellations, but the groups and the companies are still coming in as reservations are continuing. But will it have an effect? Maybe on a longer run, maybe Russians would be afraid to even use the planes after the news of the Russian airliner going down. This could have maybe a short-term impact, but at this point it has not yet affected the tourism industry. There are around 2.5 or 2.6 million tourists who came to Egypt from Russia this year, and the government hopes that this does not get reduced or does not decrease in the next few months.
All right, Yasser Hakim live there in Cairo. Lorna Shadik live for us in Moscow. Thank you both of you for joining us.